How is the seemingly magical ChatGPT actually just a predictable sequence of mathematical blocks? Welcome to Yurix AI. This is lecture 19 of LLMs from scratch, zero to builder. And today's learning objective is to master the architectural blueprint of a large language model. But before we jump in, I want to emphasize a standout idea. Before you code each individual part, you absolutely must see how embeddings, transformer blocks, and the output head all fit together into a full LLM. It's like seeing the picture on the puzzle box before you start connecting the pieces. If that just clicked, hit the like button. Okay, so today's agenda. We'll do an LLM architecture overview, check out the GPT-2 architecture, look at a dummy GPT model class, dive into token and positional embeddings, explore the transformer block, and finally wrap up with the output logics workflow. Let's get into it. Section 1, LLM architecture overview. Let's dive right into this top-down macro view. Okay, so here's our high-level data flow. We always start with raw input text. That text undergoes tokenization, which is basically just chopping the text up into manageable pieces. Next up, those pieces are fed into embeddings, both token and positional, which translate those chunks into numbers and track their exact order, right? Then, those numbers pass through the real heavy lifter, the transformer blocks. This is where the model actually learns context and meaning. And finally, everything flows into the output head, which spits out our final predictions. It's honestly a beautifully systematic transformation from raw text to intelligent output. Section 2, GPT-2 Model Architecture Overview. Let's see how this blueprint applies specifically to GPT-2. 124 million. That is the exact number of parameters in the smallest GPT-2 model. Now, a parameter is essentially just a tiny mathematical weight that the model adjusts during training to, get smarter. And sure, 124 million sounds like a massive number. But in the world of AI, this is actually an ideal, manageable scale for educational experimentation. It's small enough to run on your consumer hardware, but it's totally complex enough to teach us all the fundamentals. So these are the exact architectural components that make up our 124 million parameter GPT-2 model. We've got the token and positional embedding layers, sequential transformer blocks, a final layer normalization step to stabilize the data, and that linear output head. Now, a quick aside, the original GPT-2 model used something called weight tying. That basically means it reused the weights from the token embedding layer in its output layer, just to save some memory. But in our build, we're going to use separate token embedding and output layers because, frankly, it just results in much better training performance. Section 3, a dummy GPT model class. Time to map out our skeleton. Now, what's really interesting about this setup is how these configuration parameters act as the literal DNA for our model. Vocab size tells us the total number of unique words or subwords our model actually knows. Embedim, or embedding dimension, well, that's the size of the numerical vector representing each word. Context length is our maximum input size, basically how far back the model can remember in a single prompt. And finally, drop rate is a dropout probability. We use this to randomly turn off neurons during training. So the model doesn't just memorize the data, but actually learns to generalize. So, now that you've seen the whole map, which block are you most curious to code? I seriously want to know, so pause the explainer right now and drop your answer in the comments below. I'd love to see which part of the architecture fascinates you guys the most. Section 4, Token and Positional Embeddings. Let's zoom in to the microcomponents. First things first, we need to clearly define tokens. If you're a beginner, a token isn't always a full word. Sometimes it's a piece of a word, or literally even a single character. Our GPT model utilizes a byte pair encoding tokenizer, or BPE for short. This specific tokenizer breaks down text into a vocabulary size of exactly 50,257 unique tokens. So every single piece of text you feed the model just gets mapped to one of those 50,257 numerical IDs. But here's the thing. An ID number all by itself doesn't hold any actual meaning. That's exactly where embeddings come in. Token embeddings translate those basic token IDs into rich 256-dimensional vectors. Imagine a 256-coordinate map that plots exactly what a word means. But as we know, language isn't just about meaning. Order totally matters. I mean, the dog bit the man is very different from the man bit the dog, right? Positional embeddings provide secondary vectors that indicate exactly where the word is located in the sequence. By adding these two vectors together, we create a complete mathematical representation of a word's meaning and its place in the sentence. Section 5, the transformer block. Let's move to the real heart of the architecture. The transformer block is the core processing unit of the LLM. It contains two main parts: multi-head self-attention, which helps the model understand context, and a feed-forward network, which processes the features. It also seamlessly integrates pre-layer normalization and dropout to stabilize and regulate the learning process. But let's focus on that first part for a second: self-attention. Think of it this way: self-attention is like a book club meeting. Imagine the tokens are the readers in the club. When one reader speaks, or in our model's case, when a token is being processed, self-attention is how that reader updates their understanding of the book based on the context provided by what everyone else is saying. Every single word looks at every other word in the sentence to gather context, updating its own meaning based on its neighbors. It's brilliant. So here is the internal flow of that transformer block, step by step. The input goes through layer norm, into multi-head attention, followed by dropout and a shortcut connection, then another layer norm, and finally into the feed-forward network. I want to specifically point out step 3 here, the shortcut connection. In deep neural networks, signals can easily get lost as they pass through dozens of layers. It's a massive issue called the vanishing gradient problem. Shortcut connections bypass certain layers altogether, adding the original input directly to the output. This ensures the mathematical signal remains strong all the way through the model. Section 6. The output logits and full architecture workflow. Time to zoom back out to the macro level. To really understand the output, we must define logits. Logits are the raw, unnormalized scores outputted by the final linear layer of the model. They represent the model's predictions for what the absolute next token should be. And remember our vocabulary size from earlier? Our output tensor shape perfectly matches that vocabulary size of 50,257. So for every single possible next word, the model generates a raw score. But raw scores aren't probabilities. To convert those logits into actual text, we apply a mathematical operation called a softmax function. Softmax magically turns these raw logits into percentages, probabilities that perfectly sum to 100%. Then, we use greedy decoding, specifically a PyTorch function called torch.argmax, to simply pick the token with the highest probability. Now, a quick warning for you. If you run this on a fresh, untrained model, it will literally just spit out total gibberish because the weights haven't been optimized yet. So, the crucial point is how flawlessly this entire workflow comes together. We take our input text, we pass it through token and positional embeddings to turn it into math, route those numbers through a series of transformer blocks so the model can actually learn context and meaning, and finally project that data into output logits to predict the next word. It is a stunning architectural blueprint from start to finish. Now that you understand the entire map,